quote the great Bill O'Reilly. Fuck it, we're going live. We'll do it live. You ever seen that? No. No, man, you should watch it. It's pretty good.
I will not.
He gets really angry. It's like, fuck it, we'll do it live. There we go. There we go. There we go.
The commercial production of Basque-style berets began in the 17th century in Oloron, Sainte-Marie area of southern France.
Basque is... I thought Basque was Spanish.
No.
Yeah, it is. The Basque country. That's Spain, right?
Did I say Basque?
You said Basque. B-A-S-Q-U-E, right?
Shit, the Basque-style beret. B-A-S-Q-U, yeah.
Yeah. I've never heard Basque in terms of French. I mean, do the Spanish border the French? My geography's not so great.
The what?
Do the Spanish border the French?
No.
What's north of France?
London. England.
Oh, sorry. No, what's north?
You're such a dumb cunt.
What's north of Spain?
I really wish you were live then.
What's north of Spain?
Nothing.
So Spain is not connected to Europe?
It is connected off... No, I am wrong about Spain. Spain is south of France.
Yes.
That's the one.
Get wrecked. And we were live. Ha. Woo. That's a win for Karen.
I hope they listen to Karen
deny.
I hope they listen.
Win for me.
I hope they listen to Karen denying that England was north of France. Though.
And I hope they heard that Juan did.
Yeah, I did have wrong north of Spain. Yeah, I did get mixed up where they were.
Spain. Unbelievable. Okay, I just need to move that up a little bit.
Put me in.
Okay, so we've got one viewer. Nice, and it's me.
Yeah, good. So there you go. The first beret was 1700s in France.
I reckon I could if I did a bit of research, I could dispute that.
Archaeology and art history indicates that headgear, similar to the modern beret, has been worn since the Bronze Age across northern Europe and as far as south as ancient Crete and Italy.
There you go.
Or it was worn by the Minoans, Etruscans, and Romans.
There you go. There you go, Wani.
Popularized in the 17th century in France. So I think Karen got fucked up.
I think this gorro is sufficiently Argentinian enough that they can claim it for themselves. Which was the original argument. Liam F. Spain also touches Portugal. You are correct, Liam F. More than touches it. They make love to each other.
Make love to each other.
All right, it's 7 o'clock, so let's get into it. Hey, Liam, how you going, mate? We're going to kick it off right now. So 3, 2... Wait, no, I should bring up my notes first. Ding, 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 ding. 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, yeah. Oh, welcome, everyone, to a Mere Mortals musing session. This is one of our live ones. We're going to dive deep into a topic today, which I have called Choosing Your Culture. And I'll explain a little bit more about that soon. This is Kyron on this side of the mic.
And you got Juan on the other side?
Juan on the other side of the mic. And before we begin, I want to... two things that need to be said. One, if you're not checking out our chapter art, you're missing out. We mentioned this in the meanderings that we recorded today, which will be coming out later next week.
Yep.
But essentially, I'm putting a fair chunk of time into the chapter art. I really dislike just posting a general crappy image. I really want it to be specific. So you talked, for example, about the Yuga Labs last week about the NFTs and stuff, and so I got the exact tweet that you were referencing.
Gotcha.
There.
Cool. Yeah.
So I really try and make it something that's fun, that's unique, something different. So 100% I would recommend going to a podcasting app, doesn't matter which one you choose, which has chapter art enabled. And then adding on to this, I want to start with a big shout out to Fountain because they've got really decent chapter art. It's big, right on the screen.
Huge ones, yeah.
Takes up almost all of the width of the screen.
It looks like what you'd expect of your Spotify or others, and it's even bigger. So it's even nicer.
Yeah, and so that's 100% a good one now. It was always a good app, but now it's even more favorited for me. And there's some very cool things going on with lightning comments, and we'll be discussing that in the Boostagram section.
Okay, good.
There's some wacky stuff going on there. But yes, that was
Keen to hear it.
the main little intro I wanted to give there. Just a little shout out. Check out our chapter art. I must say, I'm only doing it for meanderings at the moment, not for the musing sessions, unless we bring up a specific point. But yeah, that's so.
Those are probably where it's best suited as well at the moment.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so let's get into today's topic. This is one that I basically got because we were talking about Brazil so much.
Gotcha.
Okay. We're going.
I was wondering where you got this from.
Yeah, so we were talking about Brazilian culture at the Carnival. Juan's got his Mexican sombrero on. I've got my...
I'm going to completely knock this out.
Argentinian beret, and we'll be discussing this a little bit more because Liam's giving us some interesting comments in the chat
Argentina?
as well about the beret, the first beret.
So okay.
We'll save that until just before the Boostagram section. And yeah, so I was like, you know what? There were certain aspects that we were talking about. The Brazilians, they've got like this fluidity for maybe like one day a year for Carnival. That's kind of cool. It's unique. Maybe it's not so healthy. Maybe it is healthy. And I was thinking, well, what if I could like create my own culture? What sort of cultures, what sort of things would I steal from the world? So I'm going to restrict this for those playing at home as well to basically cultural norms that you'll hear, like stereotypes even from other countries. So you can't steal it from the culture of your local football club and implement that. And basically my hypothetical is there's a new island's been found somewhere in the world, and you're, the first one there, and you can basically dictate what sort of things that you want to come into this culture. And let's just say the first 1 million people all get into the mindset. Basically, they all follow roughly what you are dictating for what the culture should be like.
Yep.
And then, it spreads from there. Yeah. So that was the main one. So it's sort of, you got to think, do I like this part of, of Russia, this cultural aspect do they have? Would I want to bring that into my country? How would that meld with perhaps some of this other aspect that I take from this country? What are your, favorite parts of the world, not favorite parts? That was the general thing.
One thing I like that idea. One thing that it's like running through my mind, because I obviously took some notes, but now that I'm thinking, did you also think about both the internals, so obviously the internal machinations of how it would work and everything, but how that culture would then interact with the externals, like all the rest of the cultures that then fly into them as well?
I didn't think too much about the external stuff, but that's kind of part of it, I guess. How welcoming they are of tourists, for example, or people who don't look like them or whatnot, or maybe don't behave like them, that sort of thing. So okay. That's part.
I'll try and think it through. I didn't take some notes, but I might riff on it if I can think through it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and the other thing I was just gonna say is like, there's going to be super stereotypical. So
it has to be
everyone. Everyone. I'm going to insult you if you're wearing your beret at home and you're like, that's not an Argentinian beret.
I think that's bullshit, because like you can't be individually like pissed off for the fact that we're using stereotypes. Because we're not saying the stereotype fits you.
Yeah.
The stereotype is a stereotype because it's a stereotype, Yeah. Like that's, is it more likely that you're going to find Latinos that like to dance more than Swedish, or let's pick somewhere they don't. I don't know, like Germany, I'm going to say, maybe. Like in my mind, I don't see
German folk dance and whatnot, but
something like that, right? I'm just going, okay, by the general, you're probably going to find that as a stereotype. That's why the stereotype exists. Yeah. But it doesn't apply to an individual. So don't get pissed off because it's like, that's not what it's like. I don't care. That's what the prevailing thought is, at least for the way that we're looking at it.
Yeah. And if you want to, you can discuss it in the chat. And
go wild in there. Well, if we really get us like, if we start talking about like Germany, and you're like, actually no, that's actually completely wrong to like current Germans, I'll be like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
that'd be nice to know.
Yeah, sounds good. So where's a good place to start off? I was thinking maybe we should look up quickly what culture actually is.
I wanted to look this up because I know I asked you before we actually started this podcast. I was like, is culture going to be, digital culture? Is it going to be like, was it going to talk like internet culture? And I think we wanted to focus specifically on like countries and the stereotypes.
Yeah, for sure. I'm kind of scared to switch the stream considering what happened last time when I was doing this, but
Let's do it anyways.
Yeah, fuck it. We'll do it live. Here we go. So bringing up the stream here. So what have we got? The ideas, customs, and social behavior of a particular people or society. Another one is the arts and other manifestations of human intellectual achievement regarded collectively. The set of shared attitudes, values, goals, and practices that characterizes an institution or organization. So this is where it's like, yeah, you could take the culture of Apple, for example, but that's not what we're looking at. The way of life, especially the general customs and beliefs of a particular group of people at a particular time as well. Okay, that's interesting.
That's actually pretty interesting because, again, we were kind of joking about this, but it's like, is it Germany today? Is it Germany 100 years ago?
Yeah,
like,
okay. Yeah,
Germany.
We should speak about that. So if it's like, oh yeah, I like this part of the culture, it's like, I think you were joking like...
Yeah, well, I was saying like the 1930s, late 1930s German.
That 1930s German patriotism or the nationalism, that's a
strong, strong culture.
Very good. So, all right, I think that gives us a general gist of what we're going to talk about. So,
well, I reckon we should just dive in with like a couple of the countries, the cultures that called out to you.
Yeah.
I'll go with mine first. I'll just go
Sounds
with
good.
one. So first one I went was Latino. So I definitely I thought this one
gone
through
broad as well.
And I went
Latino culture.
And by Latino culture, I'm going to probably centralize it a bit more. I'm going to say South Americans.
Okay.
So South Americans of some kind. I'm going to generalize here broadly, obviously, between your Brazilians and Argentinians and Colombians and Peruvians and Bolivians and whatever else.
Yeah.
Paraguayans. But probably apart from French Guinea, because I have no idea what the culture is like.
Or Suriname.
No idea. But by the by, I would say that some of the passion and some of the flair for life that I think that culture brings, I think is a cool part of culture that I would definitely want. When I compare, maybe from another perspective, passion that I would say the average American might have. And I'm talking America like today. So America today and still like, South America today. I think in the American culture, I would find it less of passion. There is strong views about particular things, strong views on, whether you're liberal, whether you're not, whether you think this happens, but that's not culture. That's more just shared views and understandings. And I wouldn't say that, and I'm giving the example of America, 'cause I'm just the only one that I can say like, oh, that's not, as passionate about beliefs, but more to say is like, oh, I feel like the South American passion, there seems to be a lot of it. As I'm working through, I'm like, is there another country, another culture that similarly does that passion? I think there is in different ways, but then I'll touch on some of the others probably in different arenas. Yeah. But I just think from a passion perspective, from like the love and the care for like things, I'm like, okay, some of that South American culture would be good.
So how would you imagine this in your island, for example? How would this play out in your island? What sort of situations that you wouldn't see in America or maybe in Australia, because we're not
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So
what sort of situations would you see?
100%. So like the Carnival sort of style. So that's the sort of thing where you don't really see you see the 4th of July celebrations, and that 4th of July celebrations, it's fun. Like there's fireworks and all this, but the celebrations that you see in South America about some of these things, it's, you could have the fireworks, but there's much more. It's more about passion, the music, the dancing, the getting together, the grouping, some of the customs as well, just in like the Christmas and things like that. It's just more. It just feels more together than it does, I guess, in the America, maybe others, and just their ability to be like so passionate and be like, I don't care that I'm gonna like I've got work tomorrow. I'm gonna party till like 3 a.m. and just have a really great time and enjoy like the moment now. That passion level, I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be cool. So how would it apply to the island? I think you'd see a lot of festivals, like a lot of celebrations around different things, but it would be like genuinely passionate and people really getting together around different things. So I think that passion aspect is how it would play out.
Okay. I would take the Australian level of passion and maybe go a third more towards the Latino. So whatever passion level we're at, they're there. And I say this because, I was initially thinking when you're saying that, like, I see the downside of the passion. I see like the violent arguments. I see the unthinking tempers. Like,
that's where my other cultures come. That's where my other cultures come. So that's what I'm saying. I'm taking like the passion side of some of the Latino. So, and where it came to mind again, imagine if you're watching a game of soccer or a game of football or whatever, or a game of rugby or a game of tennis. Yeah, the passion that you find in like most South American countries, yes, you could find that in like like
Only
English
in, like,
countries,
really big
and, like,
events,
the other places.
I think,
But like they're always wild.
It's not
always crazy.
It's not the default. You know, I went to a random game in Colombia between like, you know, it was almost like the equivalent of watching, like the second level of your club, your sport,
Gotcha.
whatever it is, and they weren't playing their rivals or anything yet. The intensity of that was like they were playing rivals. Yeah, and, you know, it was like a Tuesday evening in
And it was like,
in
woo!
Medellin. Yeah, they were going pretty wild.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think I do like that aspect of it. Just like the ability to be passionate on something that's at least, and I guess maybe we'll have to compare this to like the baseline of Australia. So some of these comparisons are going to be more Australian. So if someone in the chat is saying like, well, what about, you know, the passion that, you know, the Germans bring to a particular thing? Okay, maybe we're just comparing at the moment probably to Australia and a few other places. But I'd say, yeah, that level of passion, I would say for sure, bring it into my culture.
yeah. I want a slight bit more. I think, you know, I was initially thinking as well, I really don't like seeing arguments and, you know, angry spouses or, you know, like things like that in the street. But recalling now, you know, there wasn't that much of that when I was over there in, you know, traveling for sort of like 14 months through Latin America. I didn't actually see that much like outbursts or people yelling. Maybe it represented in the driving culture, for example, but that was not, it wasn't overly bad. I wasn't like walking around being like, these people are all crazy. It was like, oh no, they're all right.
There's some sanity there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'll kick off with one of mine as well. I think I'd like a little bit of the Japanese distance and respect. So I was watching some. I sent my brother a little video compilation thing of some observations of Japan, and they were saying things like, when you're on the subway, for example, you have to be very careful of respecting others, and so that's why you won't really hear people talking. When we were there, we were the loudest people on the subway, and even we were like talking in like semi whispers or like at least a lower level. And I sort of like that respect for everyone else mentality a bit. I think seeing a bit more of that in Australian culture like than we are right now, so would be good. So I would be saying like, once again, not all the way there, but a large chunk of the way towards there. So how would this represent itself? Well, there'd be people picking up rubbish on the street, for example. I almost never see that.
There wouldn't be bins.
Yeah, well, no, there's going to be bins. But
Japan's going to have it of not having bins, folks. They have no bins.
Yeah, it's wild. No, there would definitely be bins for you. Like, I don't expect you to pick up the piece of, dirty, left discarded Snickers bar and put it in your pocket. But I do expect you to pick it up and walk the 10 to 20, 30 meters to the nearest bin. So that would sort of be an expectation. And if someone saw you walking over a piece of litter and you didn't do that, it would sort of, you'd get like the stink eye sort of. People would be like, what's going on there? Why'd you do that? So I that's how I'd sort of see it playing out a little bit. There'd be way almost like no honking of the horn, for example, other than as an alertness thing or a like capturing people's attention, like, hey, not Colombian. Get the fuck out of my way. Yeah. So that's sort of one thing, like just a general respect, not even for particular individuals, but for the whole is what I would say. Yeah.
Okay.
Which I think that would be nice to have some of that in my country. Yeah.
Okay. So I've also put Japan down as well.
Okay.
But I had to make sure that, you know, how would that respect balance with the Latino passion, right? With the culture.
Yes. So how does that mix?
I put down Japan, but not so much for the respect side of things. Okay. I think that I would take some of that. I would probably merge a little bit of that respect. Yeah. But I would want it to be a little bit more, you know, fun and passionate when you've got like Latino culture mix. But I think some of the things I took out from Japan was the cleanliness for sure. So like the cleanliness level. That would be like, that's really good. Yeah. I thought the sharpness and the simplicity of a lot of things. So one thing that we found when we were there, either the places that we were staying at or the places we were going to, there wasn't clutter. Like there wasn't a lot of clutter in most places that I went to. So it was clean, sure. But most places we went to, it was sharp and uncluttered. Like things were in their place. either the design of things were like quite nicely done, or like the store we went to, like on the very first night in Asakusa, that place was 7 stories and was pretty well organized, like really well organized. And I'm like, wow, this place is like, there wasn't a lot of things out of place. Where
you could almost see it in their nature as well. The parks themselves weren't, just overgrown jungles.
Yeah, no,
like
it was.
Somewhat
yeah,
like
I think that's what I termed it
manicured.
as sharpness. So I think the sharpness of the Japanese, because that aspect of the culture would be where everyone's like making sure that the surrounding environment, both theirs and like other people's, are sharp, clean, they're well looked after. I think the respect aspect more in that sense, as opposed to the respect of, stay quiet and whatnot. I don't think I would take that out from the culture, but definitely the respect of the surrounding environment, the environment you live in. And again, generalizing it, but probably the more towards the simplicity of living as well. So, not having the need to have like a stacked homes with all these things and assets. It'll be much more reduced of just the things that you need to live life.
Yeah, gotcha.
So that would be that.
I wrote this down. The Japanese distance and respect for the group, but tempered with Latino loudness. So it's almost like you're allowed the loudness and the gregariousness, the crazy expression and whatnot, but only in sort of voluntary situations. Everyone has agreed that this is somewhat of an area. So is this appropriate on a train? No. Is this appropriate in your own house?
Yeah,
yes.
I like that.
Is this appropriate on a busy street like in King George Square or Queen Street Mall where people are going about for work or shopping? No. But are you allowed to do this in like a park where there's not that many people walking by? Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's how I sort of tempered those. I wanted to keep going with this, and then perhaps in like we'll do the Boostagrams, and then the second part we can examine, like you were talking about with the other people coming in, how maybe it would all mix together. And then I've got another thing related to the actual environment as well.
Cool.
So
Okay.
Another one, I sort of like the stoic coldness of the Eastern Europeans. Now, I haven't particularly got to experience this myself. I've never been there. But the general stereotype is you go there and everyone's sort of
what time period? What time period would this be?
So this is, I think like even nowadays is from what I've heard. I've heard that they're relatively like, you go, you try and be friendly with someone, they're not going to smile at you, for example. They're not going to, give you a hug or even touch you maybe in the first time you're meeting them. But then, once you've made a friendship, it's like a friendship for life. And, this person is like, he'll come around, he'll look after your mother if you're away or something like that. He'll give his back for you, sort of thing. I almost like the coldness at the start. And so I've written something like this. So imagine you're meeting someone for the first time in Kyrinland.
Yeah.
There's going to be like a coldness. There's going to be a distance. So you're probably not going to high five them in the first area. They're probably not going to laugh at a shitty joke that you made just because they sort of like want to be friendly.
Yep.
They might, even bordering on rude, like they'll look around while you're talking or something like that.
Yep.
But only for the first meeting. And it's sort of like if they say cool things and you think, this like person aligns with my thoughts with regards to whatever, or like, they do handstands, I do handstands, things like that.
Yep.
Then in the second meeting, it can warm up pretty quick after that. So that's when I'm expecting more like in the second meeting, you'll be like, oh, ¿qué pasa? Or like, what's up? And you give them a hug or like a kiss on the cheek or something like that.
Gotcha.
So I sort of like that there's, in the first interaction, it's not like forcing it. I think that's one thing I didn't particularly enjoy about Latino culture and even Australian culture for a little bit is it's almost like you're trying to be too hard to be friends right at the start. And I think having a bit of distance would be nice.
Gotcha.
Only like right at the start.
Gotcha. Okay. No, it's interesting. Yeah, because I would stick with the Latino one for sure, of just being like super close, ready to rock and roll.
Touching everyone.
Well,
if you're in Juanland, prepare to get touched.
You're gonna get touched. In the on Saturday when I went for a run, right? So afterwards, again, I knew zero people. Yeah. As soon as we kind of like sat down to have a bit of a coffee, I was just going around to everyone being like, "Oh, where are you from, man? Like, what's your name? What are you doing? How'd you run? Blah 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 blah." And I was like, "Yeah, this is like first interaction. Like, just dive in deep straight away."
Gotcha.
So the other one that I also put down was the Fiji. Oh, I put like Islander culture. So this is Fiji, I guess people like PNG, Samoa, countries like this, more so towards the culture of family. So I think from a family perspective and the fact that they're like big on reunions, big on caring with each other, like caring for each other. Yeah, there's aspects of it in the Latino culture. I think it's a little bit different. You could probably say that about like Vietnamese culture. You could probably say it about lots of different cultures like that. But at least that I've experienced, that Samoan Islander type of feel, it's very much like everyone's family. Like if you're in that family grouping, it's very much about care. You know, you're having like the big meals, big feasts. It kind of blends in a little bit with that passion, I guess, because you'd also be, you could have big kind of our style type of events, but you could also have, events where it's basically like everyone just goes out for a huge barbecue and has like a really good time, and there, like there's no fast pace to some of these events as well. So that aspect of a little bit slower, more of enjoying life and being connected in like this nice family friendly way, I was like, okay, that would be a cool part of culture. How that would look like as well. So maybe I'll talk about it and how people arrive, but at least from like a family perspective, you'd see that there would be a big emphasis on wanting to get together, like to reunite for a weekend, barbecue or meal with the whole family. And that would be like a very traditional thing, as opposed to there are a lot of cultures nowadays where it's like, oh yeah, I'll see my family once a year, if that type of deal. So be more orientated towards that.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, this is one where I'd diverge from you, and I'd probably be going like, what's the opposite of that? Where can you get a sort of non-family type culture? I'm trying to think of a place in the world where maybe it's not super important that
North Korea?
Relatives, you rat out your own family. I'm thinking more of maybe. See, this is where it's getting into like hard times, because I don't particularly know how the family culture is in, say, like Saudi Arabia. How important?
Yeah, like we can always say like what we think, I guess.
Basically, I would want a family culture where, now this is definitely dictated by me not being very close with my family, and I can see positives and negatives to that. But I would definitely want. I wouldn't want default you have to see them. It should be a scenario where if they invite like we're gonna have a big family get together, and you decline for whatever reason, that's not seen as an insult to the family. That's seen as, okay, he had some other stuff on. He couldn't make it. He didn't want to make it. I think it would be, in my one, it'd be sort of acceptable for you to, if you wanted to distance yourself from that. So if I won the lotto, I wouldn't have, maybe I still would have family sort of like clambering up, people who have never seen me before. Like, hey, Kyron, how you going, cousin? Like, what's going on? If that happened, I would want to be comfortable being like, okay, I know why you're here.
Gotcha.
And I don't care. Like, I'm not, you're not getting any money or something like that.
I wonder what culture you could say that would be.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a culture with maybe not super strong family ties, but for only your immediate family. I'm tending to sort of think maybe in the Baltic countries, or maybe even like just Europeans. I haven't heard much about extended German families getting together, for example. I know they have big events, but I haven't heard of ones where it's like, you're going to meet every single, like you bring a date over and she meets your entire extended family. I haven't heard that much. So I'm sort of thinking maybe like Swedish, let's say a Nordic country. Okay. I could be wrong here, but I haven't heard that their cultures are like super big on family. So I'd probably be leaning like more towards something like that. Yep.
And then probably one of my final ones here, because a lot of the things just want to like raise from culture. It's like, when you talk about like what people are into, or that's not like culture. That's just, it is more like the ideals and the values that they bring and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So here's an interesting one, because we've been talking a lot about current countries, current cultures. Did you think through of different things? So my one that went was the ancient Greek. So the ancient Greek. Okay. So this I'm talking what it would be. I don't know how long ago.
0 BC. Like 500 BC. I think that's when a bunch of the stuff was being written. Yeah. Let's say 300 to 500 BC.
What culture would I take from that? Because obviously shit, we only know from like what's been written down and things like that. But I think that there was two aspects of culture, and see what you think about this. One would be the courage that a lot of the ancient, what it sounds like, the ancient Greek culture had. I don't know whether that's like everyone had it, or if it's a case that the stories tell it, and so we think that it's like that. But obviously, you've got like the Spartans, and you've got the massive Greek like fights that they had, and the Athenians, blah blah blah. So if it wasn't, I'm not saying like if everyone had it or not, but at least that aspect of culture of like the courage to do things like that, I think would be a good part to have in the culture. How would that play out on one island? It would be like the values of, you know, when someone's trying to have the courage of like, oh, should I actually go and do this? Like, oh, hell yeah, there's not even a question. Like, oh, should I be trying to beat this world record in doing this? Or should I have the courage to go and study this or think about this? Like, oh yeah, hell yeah. That's like, there's no question. So that aspect of the culture and maybe some of the culture of the philosophy nature that came with it. But I don't know that is a ancient Greek thing, or it was because at that time, ancient Greece was really powerful. And so there was really opulent people who had the time to think.
Yeah, and like the stuff got written down and
tablets. So I don't know. I don't know if that I could really call that out as being like a cultural thing. But,
okay.
But I would say that aspect of the courage that comes behind some of those mythical sort of stories, I'd say, I'd bring some of that into One Island.
Okay, nice. Very similar for me. I wrote the folklore and celebrations of just having a really old culture. So I don't really care if it's the Vikings, the Greek gods, you know, the English nobility, the Lunar New Year celebrations that go on in China, you know, whatever it is, the mythic stories
like
of
culture.
the mythic stories of the Australian Aborigines. I imagine there's the plenty of stories coming from Saudi Arabia. Well, I should stop using that. The Middle East and you know, the Babylon, stuff like that. You know, there's amazing, really cool culture stuff. You know, you can pick on whether you want to dress up in these sort of robes and clothes and stuff. If you want to do this obscure, silly thing that doesn't really make sense any day, but fuck it, we're going to fast for 2 days or 3 days, and then we're going to have a big celebration or something like that.
Yep.
So I wouldn't particularly care about what it represented or what you actually had to do so much. But I would want to have something to call my own and be like, this is Kyrinland culture. This goes back thousands of years. You know,
like a rich story.
Yeah. And it's almost like I would want something that is so unique to Kyrinland that I would have the right to bitch about if people were culturally appropriating. I wouldn't, because that's not part of Kyrinland culture. But, you know, it would be that sort of level of like, oh, you're wearing dreadlocks. Well, that's actually from Kyrinland, and you probably shouldn't be doing that. But because you're doing it and because we're cool, we'll allow it.
Okay,
that sort of thing. But I would want something really, really old. I think that would be nice to have a connection to the past. And you could be saying like, why don't I have that now? Because the Australian Aborigines, for example, they have all that. Why aren't you into that? But it's sort of like, I'm not from them. Like I would be considered an outsider, and maybe I could gain it if I spent 40 years like diving deep into their world and something like that. But I'd rather just have it straight from the go. Like you're born and you get Kyrinland mythical culture.
Okay, nice. I like it. Yeah. Good.
Cool. All right, let's address some comments and do some
Boostagram
Lounge. So we've got Patricia and Liam in the chat. Liam, thank you. Yes, Spain also touches Portugal. Patricia says, sombreros. Liam says the first beret was dug up by an archaeologist. It was found in a bicycle basket with a baguette. Dang. That's an incredible find for him. I wonder if the baguette was still edible. Liam says, my island would be built around the islander ways. So here we go, touching in with you one, specifically about how everything is about helping your family and community. He actually posted that before you started saying yours.
Oh, there you go.
So the two of you are in cahoots with
We're
that.
in cahoots.
Liam also says, if you're a prince in Saudi Arabia, I imagine the family cultures are pretty good. Yeah, I don't know enough about that. I'm going to have to pass on judgment on that. Liam also says, I think the ancient Persian culture would be cool. Yeah. Agreed. Fucking sick ass daggers, like these curly daggers that you.
But again, that's the thing. I mean, yes, we can only take like that knowledge that we know to say that is that culture. Whether that was like actually the general culture,
it doesn't
or not, I
matter.
don't know. But yeah, that aspect of it, yeah, sure. That would be
Like
pretty
the Vikings were, like mad rapist boatsmen, and even if they were like the kindest, like they actually were like kind invaders. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah,
like
that's still all they're known for.
We
Yeah,
want, we
well,
want
that's
the
what they're known
gangster, breeder, the
killer,
the
Yeah,
braided
big-
beards,
exactly.
the crazy tattoos, and I don't know if they tattooed, but like jacked, long haired people going around on crazy boats and stuff. That's
the image. That's the image. Yeah.
all right. Let's jump into some boostergrams, my friend.
All right. Okay. So first one. This one came from Abel.
Yes. So this is Abel Kirby.
Abel Kirby.
Yeah.
It says, "Yo, I'd love to include your art in the banner. Please send a high resolution image, 1:1 aspect ratio, 2." And then he said an email there.
Yep.
He sent through 8,888 sats.
That's almost a boob one. I kind of actually wish
using
he'd sent less.
Curio Caster.
Yeah. So what is that in reference to? Well, I've been tuning into his podcast, and they're going to a thing called a block party. So you know what a block party is, but it's a Bitcoin block party.
Oh,
so
okay.
they're going to this Bitcoin event that's going to take over an entire block in Minneapolis, I think, somewhere like that.
Cool.
Maybe Indiana, and they're going to set up like a podcasting 2.0 stall. And
no way.
They basically
That's
mentioned if you'd like, if there's any like podcasts who are value for value and would like to be mentioned on this or whatnot, just let us know. So I sent him a boostergram being like, hell yeah, chuck us on, man. So I've already sent him that image. So I imagine at some point we'll see a picture of ourselves on the on his little block party image.
That's
banner.
awesome. I cannot wait to see that.
Mere Mortal's
really
going
cool.
to the US and he keeps on saying it's the Sunday after 420. So I think it's like the 28th of April or something like that.
Gotcha. That's pretty cool. Nice date. Very good. Thank you. Now, Dave Jones, he says, "Happy birthday, Kyron." Woo! That old man picture of Juan freaked me out. I'm sure a lot of people have been freaked out by that, man. A little bit of a weirdo. I like it. Yeah. By the way, Abel sent that in the previous one using Curio Caster. Dave used Castamatic. Yes. And he sent through 12,112 sats.
Go! Boost!
For Kyron's birthday.
So for these ones, just read out the messages and I'll explain what's going on with
because there's a lot of 102 sats on this one, and they all come from Fountain. So let's go through them. So Peter says, "The best people are born in March. Happy birthday, buddy." He says, "Also, I have a high level of certainty that you should your penis touch the edge of the universe, there will be shrinkage." That's when we're talking about what happens if you touch the edge of the universe.
I saw that coming live. I was losing my shit, man. I thought that was so funny.
And then they certainly are Peter. Oh no, that's us going back. And that's us replying back to it. So what's going on here?
Yeah, so one of the things that Fountain has implemented is, so there's been big talks about the cross-app comments. Everyone knows that's basically the thing that YouTube does the best. Like their comment section is fantastic. Yep. That's why I personally love YouTube, pretty much just for that. And so they've been trying to figure out like, okay, how can we get comments on podcasts? Because if you go to a podcast platform, I don't know what you use, Spotify, you can't get comments there. And even if they did introduce comments, what if someone's listening on Apple and half the people roughly, I think it's like 30-40% Apple, 30-40% Spotify, and then the rest all take small portions. If someone posts a comment on Apple, you're not going to see it. If they post it on Spotify, you will see it, but you're not getting the full dialogue. So they're trying to find ways where anyone can post a comment on any app and it'll appear on every other app. Yeah. Now, technically, this is really difficult. Yeah. Really, really difficult. And then there's all sort of complications with regards to, who's going to moderate this sort of thing? Who's going to, if you don't want comments or you don't want a particular comment, how can you do this? Blah, 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 blah. So they've been working on this for a while. And then Oscar, like the madman that he is, was like, fuck it. I'm just going to create like a comment system, similar sort of thing, but using boostergrams. And so it's not a boostergram per se because everyone goes to it. Everyone can see it. It's called a lightning comment. So if I go to our show here, our celebrating 30 Brazilian one, you'll see there's a comments section here now. So you can boost via the normal area, and this is like supporting your podcast, and then you can boost via a comment. So Peter actually sent through 30,000 sats. I'm guessing because of the 30th
What?
birthday. So
I
thank you very much.
didn't see that come through.
Yeah, so that was the I also I have a high level of certainty. So that was 222
Gotcha.
sats. He's the best people are born in March. That was the 30,000 one.
Gotcha.
And so obviously something is going wrong with either the Satoshi stream, which I have enabled for the mere mortals at the moment, which allows us to get it in via Discord and things like that, or it's something on the fountain side. And you'll also see I replied to him and I was like, they certainly are, Peter. And I only sent 5 sats through, but it came up as 102 on ours as well. And it's also doing weird things with the emojis, like it's putting it in its base format,
Unique,
which is like
unique, like UD83 or something like that.
So Peter actually did some big boost there. So
Damn.
So not 102 sats. He's the big baller, Peter.
Holy
and,
dooly.
Really do appreciate that, Peter. We will put those sats to good use.
Yeah,
spread it around the system
For sure. And Peter, Dave,
Yep.
and your mate, what's his name? Just forgot the name.
Abel
that's the
Kirby.
one.
Yes, thank
I
you.
remembered Kirby, but not Abel.
Yeah.
Very good. No, I appreciate that. Obviously, all those messages for Karen's birthday and everything else. So,
So some very cool stuff happening there.
But again, if you're hearing us talk about this and you're like, "What's that?" then like open your eyes because we've been talking about this now for like 200 episodes. So like we're probably not going to repeat ourselves. Basically,
and the whole time we've been saying, it's not polished prime time yet.
Yeah.
So every single thing that happens, every new thing that comes out, like it breaks.
as it should. You learn from that. So anyways, it's Valley Enabled podcast. Again, if you want to interact with us, obviously you can do it through live and YouTube that we're doing right now, but also through those Boostagrams and those lightning messages as well, obviously. So start using Fountain.
100%.
Man, Oscar's just going wild in there, man.
He's doing some really cool stuff, man.
Well done, Oscar.
Really cool
Big shout out to you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I wanted to bring up let's go into your point first. So you've got your culture set in. It's a mix of Latinos and Japanese and Islander culture, and it's all somehow working together. And then someone from the outside comes in.
Yeah.
I guess like what are your people's cultural reaction to like an outsider? First of all, I guess are your people all going to look relatively similar, or are they going to be a mix of variety, I guess?
I didn't really think through that particular. I mean, I wouldn't care. I don't think it affects, I guess, any of the stuff that I'll be like, whether they were like all similar looking or they'd be like just a wide variety of looks. I don't think, at least in my mind, I'm like, that wouldn't affect too much of what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
So that would be one.
Yeah. So I would have said like my culture, I'd actually want the ability for someone to come in and it's not really knowable at the get-go that they're not from there. So you can look like whatever color or whatever. And
so it's not a really standardized, homogeneous, like everyone is like dark skin type of deal and you stand out coming in.
No, not everyone's like walking around bald, for example. So
even the girls.
Yeah. Especially the girls.
Okay. No. Okay. Actually, now that you say that, maybe I would say that too. I think that would be probably the more appropriate thing. It'd be easier, I guess, to not infiltrate, but kind of connect with the culture. But I think for sure. So like, if I would imagine it, so if someone's flying, so you're flying into Juanland.
Yes.
What's the reaction? So I think 100%. It's the when you visit Fiji or you visit a couple of other places, you get this little celebration of like g'day. So whether if you've got family members there and everyone's coming out and like greeting you, if you're not just completely new, you get this little like nice introduction of like, welcome to this place, and it's like that kind, warm sort of feeling. The airport, everything, straight away you'd be hit with the fact that it's like, it's so clean. Everything's like clean and sharp. This is like really, really good. I like this.
Nice.
And there would be just a level of like, okay, this is calm. Like no one's rushing, right? People are giving each other time. There's probably a focus not so much on, making money. So I'm assuming like the example is it's not like you're going through like a New York airport or you're going through the LA airport or something and you're getting like rushed through or having, no, it's kind of like, we're a little bit more laid back here. It's kind of like you're almost on a holiday. That's what it feels like.
Agreed.
Ample availabilities of modes of transport. So again, there's like really great train systems, really great like bus transports or ways to go around. You're going to be surprised because no one's beeping at you. There's a lot of cordiality. Like, everyone's reasonable and logical with a lot of these things.
Yeah.
And maybe a couple of other things would be like, you'd go out to, so I'm just going to give an example of like, if you're a holidayer, right? You visitor, so you're like, kind of like, what am I going to do? So I think you'd go to a great like lunch place. So first you'd go for a walk around the gardens, and you'd be like,
Nice.
oh, these are beautiful gardens. It's really, really
Pristine.
nice.
No branches.
No branches,
over.
nothing like that. So it's nice and pristine. Then you go into like your local lunch place, and the lunch place, there's lots of options, lots of food. I guess we didn't really talk so much on the culture of food, but again, mine would be like a Latino mix plus, I would say, some of the Asian cultures as well with some of the food. Just like ample, lots of different ones, pretty quick as well. So it doesn't have to be like, I'm not talking about the level of like European fine dining. No, this is like good food, pretty quick food, ample amount of it. That's the sort of like culture of the food. So maybe you'd go for that. And then you'd go and catch up with some friends because you've met some friends out at lunch, and they said like, oh, we're going to go to this place afterwards. You'd be like, oh, cool, I'll come with. And then you go because you came to Juanland to watch the football. You came to watch some of the soccer, and you go out and you have absolutely no idea, and you're 3 drinks deep, and you've made friends with like 7 people. You've already had a verbal fight with someone on the opposite like celebration of who are cheering. But afterwards, everyone like has a good time, goes have a drink, and go home. Okay, and you go, oh man, that was a fantastic time in Juanland. Yeah. I'm going to come back. Now, so that's my experience of the external. Actually, I'll let you. What would the external land be like for Kyrinland?
Yeah. Geez, that celebration of coming in does sound kind of nice, but I wouldn't. It wouldn't be a forced one. I think I'd have like two options. It's like you come into the airport and it's like you immediately. Okay, so this will tie in with the structure of how Kyrinland's roughly set out. The center will have that core of what I was saying, where it's like the involuntary. So everyone's sort of there for business or for other reasons. Like everyone's conglomerating, which humans just tend to do. So I'm thinking more like the city center. So that's where it's going to be nice and polite. It's going to be quiet. It's going to, people are going to be respectful of other people, etc. As the city expands out, that's where it can get a bit more wild, I guess. So this is where I'm imagining like, this is where you're seeing the gregarious parties going on. This is where you're seeing like, okay, a little bit of relaxing of the rules here. There's going to be more noise. There's going to be more like random stuff going on. You're going to find a dead body in the street, or you'll find like I don't know, like random strays walking around, for example.
Sure.
There'd be like an acceptance of like, okay, the strays can hang around on the outside of the city, but in the city center, that's where we need the sort of orderliness of things. Okay. So as you fly into the airport, you get the option of like, hey, do you want to go to like the sort of like sanctioned area where everything's going to be polite and stuff, or you can go this way and go into like a cab. So you've got like two choices of cabs, for example. One's going to be like, just take me somewhere and I want to see what's going on, like what's going on the outside. And one will be like a direct, like, let's go to the city center and see, it'll be like a monorail straight to the city center sort of thing. So you still get to choose what your initial experience is like, and then you'll blend and merge. We didn't talk too much about food culture. I'm definitely more of the like sort of rapid. I don't particularly like the fine dining experience. So there's not going to be too much like, you have to sit in a chair and use this fork, and you have to wait and wait for the waiter and stuff. It's more like you can go up and get your own food, or it'll like come over really quick and there's just like a bunch of noise and stuff like that. So that's how I'm more imagining the food sort of aspect as well.
Do you feel because one thing that just stuck in my mind was, so the segregation between, say, the center area, quiet and more polite, and then you've got the external areas. It's a little bit more gregarious, people are having fun. Could you see that your culture could run into the issues like East Germany, East Germany versus West Germany style, where you'd have like, oh, don't trust those city guys, like they're quiet or whatever, like we out here, we're like have the real fun.
There's a definite possibility. I'm willing to risk it though.
I think that's always the aspect of cultures when they've got lots of different cultures within, like when you experience that cut of like, oh, in that area it's like this and this area is like that, you then stumble into like, okay, well, it's them and us type of deal. as opposed to if you've got a more homogeneous culture of everyone, then it's like when you're saying like, oh, you get the choice. When you say you don't get the choice, like everyone gets treated in terms of like this happy, like fun family way. Yes, you're gonna have people who don't like want that, but at least there is some strength in it always being the same. Like it's like, oh, it's everyone in that. But then I guess when you introduce that, oh no, you get the choice, then you start having, okay, choice is good, but then it also creates segregation and separation on many cultures as well. So
this is true.
that would be interesting. Okay, so here's my example now of someone living in Juanland.
Okay.
So someone living in Juanland.
Right.
So what's it gonna look like? Ready to rock and roll? Because you wake up, everyone's waking up early. Why? Why is that? Everyone's waking up early because everyone is has that courage and like that sort of brutality feeling from the Greek. But I'd say gyms are free. So yeah, they've worked that somehow that it's like tax, like the tax system, it like makes it so it's free. So
I think if you implemented free gyms right now, the benefit on the healthcare system
would be way better.
Would make it worth it.
100%. Where's Como? Dude. Like right now, mate, if you implement free, like you will save all of your money straight away. Like, unbelievable.
Done.
Like
Done.
Stephen won't have to pay for 4 gym memberships, right? Like, goddamn, that dude's wasting money. Like,
he's paying for like the whole healthcare
he's
system
paying for
right
it.
there.
It's crazy.
Jesus.
So what I would see there is, you get up early, go for that workout. Everyone's going, but so there's ample spaces. Then there's a pretty soft, so you'd have a really engaging morning with your partner who you're living with. You'd have a pretty like interactive conversation, but then you're going into work now. Whether you're going into an office or you're working from home, it's clean, it's sharp. Everything is nice and sharp. So I'm imagining all the buildings are like Apple buildings. Like everywhere is just like super sharp and clean. You do have places where, you can see like they've got some celebrations maybe set up for an upcoming, like this weekend we've got a big celebration of whatever, but it's not over the top. Like you don't see cars and things thrown onto the street on the ground and things splattered over. No, it's like it's clean. There's like a nice billboard. There's a nice couple of cardboard cutouts put in selective locations, but it's not damaging the look of the city or the place or the suburbs. It's just nicely laid out. You do your work, you'd have great interactions, go for your food. But then you would normally, so I would say, I'm going to call it out, I'd say that 5 days out of 7, you would be not eating at home, but you'd be eating out with friends, family, or something else. So
Dang.
Not saying, when I say out, I mean like out of your own home.
Okay.
Out of your home. So, you could be Monday night, you're going to your families and you're having dinner there. Yeah. Or they come over, something like that.
Gotcha.
Tuesday, you're out with like mates and you're having a dinner. Wednesday, you're going out with your significant other. Something like that. And it's 5 out of 7. So there's like a big culture of you're always out of the home. You're always interacting with people. So like
you're always sort of cooking double, I guess, because you never know, like, is this person going to be coming around
100%.
to mine
So like in that,
or...
and then in that islander sort of sense, it's like it is completely expected that you might just have like 10 more people rock up type of deal. And it's like, cool, 4 more friends rocked up. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm like, so everyone maybe would go towards the having extra things rather than less things. And that happens in Latino culture as well. But there'd be more of a view towards overabundance than there would be to be without.
Gotcha.
And there'd be more, so I think the exchange would be, you would care less, like more of that Japanese sharpness sort of sense of having like, I don't know, assets or things that you pile up, but more like, like fully stocked food or the availability. So if you have to entertain or have people over or go out to people, that's where all of your spending goes to instead.
Yeah.
So okay. Something like that.
Okay, cool. Mine's going to be dependent on what's your just natural extroversion level. So if you're relatively introverted, you're probably waking up one level style.
Oh, and in this, I don't know if it's a culture thing, but I'm saying like whatever culture is spinning, like everyone's extroverted.
Yeah.
Like, you're going here. And I mean, if you're flying in and you're introverted, you're not here for a good time. Like, you do not come to Juanland if you're introverted. Like, you're going to have a terrible time.
That's okay, because I think 80% of the population is roughly extroverted. So like if you had to split them, it's that ratio. So for me, all are welcome here. There's maybe like a slight more lean, so maybe like 30% introverts, 70% extroverts, but if you're more introverted, you're probably waking up more in the city center and you're probably like waking up one level early. Like I'm going to wake up, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to do et cetera, et cetera. No one's driving anywhere for something that they dislike having to do. So if you dislike work, you're not driving anywhere. You're going to be like in your home on your computer or something like that. If you're more the extroverted type, let's say like somewhere in between introverted and extroverted, you're waking up in sort of like one of the outer burbs. So maybe 20 minutes from the city center, roughly. You wake up and there's maybe like you can see a stray dog walking past. You can, maybe smell some tasty bacon being cooked from across the road or something like that. Like there's a lot of just like mingly things going on. Maybe like there's a bit of shouting in the distance, things like that. And then if you're really extroverted, like you're waking up in an artist's den at 3:00 in the afternoon because you've had a massive bender on a Wednesday evening. And that's where it's like, oh geez, like, all right, I'll wake up, I'll run over to my friend's house and like puke in his bathroom because mine's clogged up or something like that. And so you've got a bit of a mix of all. Everyone's still relatively productive, and I think there's still like a general kindness towards people. Violence is always a thing of like last resort and an accidental. So accidentally, I don't know, being like too gregarious and hitting someone in the face, but it's not like I'm gonna punch that guy because I'm not gonna be like angry because they have more wealth than me and their car's shinier or some shit like that. So that's a general.
Okay, I like it.
So everyone's pretty pacifist. Like violence is the absolute last resort.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so let's play devil's advocate. So what are the terrible things? What are the things that people wouldn't enjoy, perhaps, of your culture? So I'll go first. So straight away, I would say that I guess the culture it's sounding like at Hawaiian Island is if you're there to become wealthy or if you're there to drive like a big business creation or company, it's probably not the place. So there's more of an orientation towards family, fun, getting together than it is of let's burn the midnight oil to do particular work. Like from a work perspective, I think there'd be less of that. So there's definitely some aspects of that, but it's not primary. It's like it comes secondary or tertiary to family or having fun with friends or just living that sort of life. So I'd say probably not the best place, nor would it be incentivized by the country to be primarily like business led. It might be more of a, we're going to take care of like that gym perspective, like, the health and the family friendship aspect. Probably that will be more of a core. And so you have to take away somewhere. So I'd say that aspect of business itself would lean away. Same with like, I was saying things move a little bit slower. People are, nicer in particular ways. To be able to do that, you have to take away from like the ability to, profit. So, if you could push 300 people through a particular event or something, and that makes you X amount of money. But in this culture, it's like, oh no, it's only going to be 100 because we're going to take more time and make it more memorable and whatnot. And so we're going to take away the amount of benefit that we get financially from it, but we're going to give that to more the experience and the feeling around it. So because I would say that. The other one as well would be, I have a feeling that the culture that I'm thinking through, while it's in this Japanese sharpness and niceness to us, I think overall there's a lot of intensity. There's a lot of intensity to the passion. So, from the moment you're there, when you're talking to people, it's like, it's intense. People are like talking about it. They're getting passionate, they're talking deep, whether you're at a game, it's pretty intense. So I think there'd be a lot of intensity. I don't know, maybe the people of Juanland, maybe they'd be used to it and they're like, oh, that's totally fine. But perhaps it could have a way to really burn out some people if they're like, oh man, I just need some time on my own or something. Maybe that type of culture wouldn't facilitate that very well. Because I was just saying, if you're expected to be going out all the time and seeing family all the time, and it's like, well, gee, I really just want to like walk on the beach on my own or whatever. It's like, no, that you wouldn't do that. Bring lots of people together and have like a massive party, or go and play beach volleyball or something like that. You might be like, well, I want to be on my own. Maybe it would alienate some of those people, that particular culture. Okay. So that would be my thoughts as well.
Yeah, okay. I just want to bring up a comment here. Liam says, Juan's welcome sounds like it would give off a Stepford Wives vibe. Everything would be too perfect. So everything's like, there's no like, because when you go into a bunch of other countries, you'll be like, get stopped by customs or something. It's like, I have to deal with customs.
Yeah, blah, that's blah, a good point actually.
So maybe, if the welcome is too perfect, the rest of your country could give off some like it's like a downhill experience, I guess.
Well, that aspect would be I think the intensity or the fact that it'd be like so many people like not on top of each other, but there'd be like this very big thing about connection. So again, obviously orientates to the person, but say you get into a taxi and the taxi driver might be like start really get into conversations and talk about like this game is coming up, like, you know, thing, and I'm doing this, like, oh, have you already got plans? There's going to be people who are like, I just want to sit at the back of this taxi and not talk to you, right? Like, you order an Uber, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Like, some people who
Too
might
bad.
be... Yeah. So people, they're like, nah, man. Like, everyone's going to be talking to you. Like, that's just the way it is. So, some people like it, some people wouldn't.
Okay, interesting. I think mine would sort of be... You wouldn't fit in so great, or you'd have a strong time if you can't be, like, somewhat accepting of paradox, or of, like, okay, this city is like this in this portion,
and different in this other
but
place.
I maybe, like, one of my friends has invited me out to the outer suburbs, and then along the way it's like, oh shit, like the roads aren't super straight here. Someone's like curved the road like unnecessarily, like they made it like a racing track up a hill with all these tight bends and shit, instead of just having, like, you know, cutting through it or going around it in like a quick, easy manner. So I think if you can't accept that there's going to be like something that maybe will put you out of your comfort zone a little bit, then you're not going to be super welcome. And you can create, there's plenty of room for everyone in Kyrinland. Even if you're the most introverted person ever, you can carve out a life for yourself in the city center, but you're going to have to take the restrictions of, like, it's the trade-off, that being that if you go outside of the city center, there's going to be things that you might not like. There'll be maybe a bit more noise. There'll maybe be, you know, some people dressed up in like things that are shocking to you. It's like, oh my God, that girl's wearing, like, you know, only like a breast band or something in like the toga times, or, you know, she's like their feet's really dirty and they're like throwing mud at each other because that's part of like an ancient festival or some shit, like, and that might splash onto your car.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I think if you're not accepting that there's going to be some random stuff going on, and there's some things that'll be like, oh, that doesn't make any sense, why would you do that? I think you're going to struggle. And I think you'll be particularly fitting in, per se. So if you want, and if you want to be totally normal as well, so whatever your normal is, if you're not willing to see a community where everyone is super chilled out, and I'd basically say, like, everyone's probably going to have like an hour or two's worth of time or more each day where it's like nothing is planned. It's just going to be like, we'll see what goes on here. Like, maybe if I'm feeling really productive, I'll go do something productive. I'll spend an extra 2 hours at work, but they'll generally be like a default of like a little bit of extra time per day to do what you want.
Gotcha.
And so if you can't handle like being on your own for an extra hour or two, or if you can't handle not having a place to be, or an inconvenience, like the road gets blocked up by this random parade going through, then you're not gonna cut it.
You're not gonna cut it. Yeah.
And we'll throw you into the sea.
Yeah, good. Good. Yeah, the other couple of things as well, it popped in my mind. I think the culture that I've thought of as well wouldn't be capitalist in nature. I think there'd be like, you wouldn't imagine, not to the extent that some other countries are, I guess. Or like, I guess the US would be much more of a capitalist country than, say, Fiji, right? Yeah. Sure, there's still some aspects to it, and you're trying to make money and make income and live, but it probably would be lesser so. So there would be more of a focus on that more relaxation life living.
Maybe just like less materialism would be the way.
Yeah,
like that sort of seems to come with capitalism. If you
So
markets
definitely.
and
So it'd be a little bit more less materialism from the culture as well. So there would be a propensity of, I'm going to build a huge big home and have all these things. Like, no, most of the cultures, like, everyone's either just like living in, sure, you can have like bigger places, nice places, but there isn't an aspect of, just because that person is living in like a mansion doesn't mean that there's almost that sectioning off of, that's them and they do these things and we do this because we're in the middle class layer. I could almost imagine that, people would have different income, But everyone would still go to the football games, and everyone would still go to concerts, and everyone would go to stuff like that. Like everyone would just come together in any case and forget any of those deviations that exist. So there can be definitely some bad things around that for sure. But I think for mine, I'd be like, well, I'd have to orientate to taking away some of those breakdowns.
Yeah. The last one I wanted to bring up was the climate. What sort of climate is your island in? For me, it's an interesting. I really like Medellin, so that sort of eternal spring type deal. Yeah, there'll be a little bit of rain. There'll be that would be the most. There'll be like small inconveniences, maybe once every 2 days a month. It'll be like too windy or too rainy for the general population.
That's an interesting one
because I think yours would struggle because I know you like the cold. So how would the people in your country
I'd go with the temperature of Japan. I'd go Japan because it does go towards
so you can have
not
some different
super warm.
climates.
Yeah, so I would go through like a place that goes through all four sort of like main climates. So it goes through like actual seasons. So I think that there would be a really cool thing of going through winter, like a proper winter with it being colder and having potentially snow, or you could have. Obviously, we didn't talk through like if you had like mountains or whatever, like those differentiations, but also then having the ability to have a summer, not super hot summer and not a super humid place. I would not go with the humidity. I'd go like that more drier heat. That's sort of like I would say. Trying to think of like a place that's more akin to that. I mean, okay, I'm just gonna say this anyways because like we're just making shit up. So I'd say it'd be like a Greek summer. With a northern Japan winter. Okay. That would be like and then whatever in the middle ground. Because that's like super nice dry heat. It can be like quite hot. You'd have like a really good time by the beach or the pool, but you're not like absolutely dying and you get a like awesome tan just for the type of sun it is or the type of like summer. And then that northern winter in Japan, I guess, because it's super nice. Like you can get really powdery snow. Sure, you have like the wind or whatever, but it's generally a kind of winter than you could have like a really freak winter in a few other places. So
gotcha.
Not so much culture, but yeah, I would say something like that in Juanland.
Nice. Yep. Sounds good. Very good.
Very good. Okay.
I think that's
any more comments? Anything else?
No more comments. That's everything there. I didn't think this episode would go on this long as well. Damn. Hit over an hour. Yeah.
Good.
So everyone, we've pretty much done our value for value spiel already. But for those who want an extra dose of it, there's a value for value podcast. We produce something that you're enjoying, some interesting stuff about cultures and choosing what you want, playing a game with us, doing it live, all of these fun little things. And we just ask that you return the value back. You can do that however you want with time, talent, or treasure. I would just say for this one, the recommendation is to download the Fountain app. Check out our cool chapter art and then send us through a Boostagram. That would be
indeed. Now,
share
you don't have to
share
send,
it.
Yeah, or share it. You don't have to send 30,000. So you can send 300,000 if you feel like it.
You could send 102 sats and like continually make me confused because I'll be like, I thought I fixed this fucking problem. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, that would be good. Send a couple of 102 sats just so Karen gets pissed off everybody. All right, that's it. Me and Immortal Light's going to leave it there. Hope you enjoyed today. Wherever you are in the world, make sure that you're having a good time. Immortal Lights Juan out.
Karen out.
Good. Cheers. Good.
Thank you everyone for joining us. Ending the stream now. Thank you, Liam. Thank you, Patricia. Ciao. 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 Bella.